Mr. President, I want to thank the senator from New Jersey, my distinguished colleague, for his very, very passionate and correct and appropriate remarks. I think that there is no higher moment for this body than when we stand with those that are oppressed, as this country has and as this Senate has over the history of our nation. Standing with those that are oppressed is our highest moment and our best calling. And I do find it ironic that something as simple as this simple little white band with the word change on it could be so threatening to this illegitimate regime as to have to imprison 70 young people, and now today we hear that another 40 have been arrested. It is unconscionable, it is unthinkable that a regime would be so weak as to be so threatened by something as simple as these wristbands that we're wearing. But it is also a sign of the continuing spirit of freedom that continues to be alive and well in that imprisoned island. There is no question about that, and that's why I think it's so appropriate that we came together to increase the funding for the dissident movement inside Cuba so that they can have the simple resources like pens and paper, so they can communicate with one another and they can add to their message of freedom and their message of hope. I don't have any question that these young people, whether arrested for a few days or for a harsher sentence, we don't know, because there is no rule of law, there is no guidepost that we can follow. We're simply at the mercy of this regime who for now almost a half a century has brutalized its totalitarian people, its people with totalitarian rule. From Florida for coming to the floor. Senator Menendez was so eloquent in his description of the situation today. I want to echo his comments regarding the Presidential Medal of Freedom that Oscar Elias Bisset will be receiving on Monday. It is a wonderful acknowledgement of this Afro-Cuban doctor. He, in his quest for freedom, has chosen to follow Martin Luther King Jr., the Dalai Lama, and Gandhi. This is a man of peace. This is not a man of armed conflict, not a man of violence, a man of peace. He is in prison, as was mentioned by a senator from New Jersey. But I want us to understand that being in prison in Cuba isn't as simple as just being denied the opportunity to walk and move as you will, but it is to be in the most repressive gulag that the world has ever seen. President Bush last week, when speaking eloquently about the situation in Cuba, he said, the day this regime ends, those who have supported it will be embarrassed by the things that will be revealed, just like those who supported the Eastern European gulag or the Nazis or the Stalin of the past were embarrassed at a time when the full measure of their cruelty was seen and recognized. As we approach the agricultural fair in Havana, I remember as a young boy, my father was a veterinarian, and one of the biggest thrills for me, go from my small city to go to Havana and go to the fair. This was a time when all the cattle exposition was there, and my father, of course, being involved in this industry, was there doing business. And I remember seeing my first rodeo there. It was a wonderful memory. Well, this fair still goes on every year, and I know that there'll be many from this country who will believe that the most appropriate thing to do is to make a buck and go there and sell goods and participate in this thing. I hope that when they're there, they might take the courage to themselves wear one of these little wristbands. Be happy to supply them. I have a few, and it would be wonderful if they would show up at the fair wearing these wristbands that say Cambio. Just a simple message. Solidarity with those that are oppressed. We are a people of freedom. We enjoy our liberty, and we want it for others. And we understand that the time for the Cuban people is coming. The hour of the Cuban people is approaching, and it is coming. And so I want to thank my colleagues for their solidarity, Senator Cornyn from Texas, as well as my colleague from Florida and Senator Menendez, all joining together in a unified voice, seeking cambio, change, and standing together with these young people for their courage and their bravery, and also celebrating this wonderful award that Dr. Oscar Elias Bisset will be receiving on Monday, which is a good recognition of his long work in the area of human rights, and also hoping that it might be an opportunity for the Cuban regime to perhaps consider whether it is the time to grant him his freedom. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.